And hi everybody to the Clare GAA podcast. And with us today we have Clooney and Clare legend Mickey Murphy. How are you today, Mickey? How are things?
Sure, I'm fine, Michael. I don't know about being a legend now, but I'm flying it anyway. Thanks for
how's the farming circles going? You're keeping your head above water, are you?
Just about, yeah.
As we were saying beforehand, as we were saying beforehand, I know COVID is a tough time for everyone, but at least when you're out farming, it's keeping your mind active and you have a normal life.
Exactly. You won't get bored anyway. There's always a heap of jobs waiting for you, so it's good to be able to do it. So I'm happy at it all my life. So I'll stay at it for as long as I'm able to. Yeah.
I suppose we just maybe start at the beginning. Tell us a bit about your family, your parents, where you came from, and all that.
Yeah, well, I was born down in Trevenmore, about a mile and a half from Quin. My father was Michael Murphy, he was a colour man, and my mother was Margaret Kiley. She was always known as Evan. And I had two brothers. Sean, he was the PP up in Milltown, he's retired now, and Eamon, another brother, was an actress. So there was just three boys in the family. And when I was 16, then our farm was fragmented, so we had land up in Clooney as well. So we moved up there around 1970 and walked away, and I suppose got married in when I was, I think, 25 to Betty Quinn living from the market, and we had three family ourselves. Deirdre, Fiona and Donica. So
that's right.
That's about it, yeah.
Deirdre and Donica would be well known in the GAA circles. So we talk with them. You're an interesting. Your father was in Tipperary for a while. He lived down there for a while, I think. Did he?
He did. Well, he won a senior championship with Tulla in 1933, and he won a Leinster final, a junior Leinster final with Dublin. He was going to an A college up in Glasnevin, the Albert College. So they got to the All Ireland final, but got beaten by Cork in 1925, I think.
So that was an amazing. It's amazing travels for a man, wasn't it?
It was at the time, but he was probably going to look for a job with the Land Commission or in the Forestry Service or something like that. But my aunt, who had married down in Tipperary near Drummondere, her husband died, and she was left with her. She had a baby only 6 months, I think, when he died. And my father went down to help her on a farm. There was a fine farm there in Ballyartella, and he threw in his lot with Killidangan then, because it was too far to commute back. It was all cycling and everything that time, so you couldn't really get back to play with Tulla. So he threw in his lot with Killidangan, and they won two North-Tip championships in 1938 and again in 43. They actually got to the county final proper in 38, but got beaten by Tulla Sarsfields. And they had 9 at the tip panel. They were after winning the All Ireland, so it wasn't too easy beating. Yeah, I think they got fairly well beaten in the day.
I suppose it's very ironic. It's very ironic that your father hurled with Killidangan, and now you have Cathal Egan, a mainstay of Clooney Quin. It's like the two clubs must have done a deal years ago.
That's right. Well, when Cathal came to live in Quin, he was playing with our old, so I went down to meet him and I said to him he'd have to return the compliment out of it. And he did. The following year he came and played with Clooney, and he was one of the best servants we ever had. He was a marvellous player. And,
is he still playing? I suppose he'll try and play this year again, I suppose, if the chance comes.
Sure, he'll play at some level anyway, I'd say. You know, sure, he played in goal when they won the Senior B there.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, that's right. Yeah, and played a marvellous match in the final. Yeah.
I suppose what is your memories of being involved with Clooney as a young fella playing, and who were some of the players that you played with, and maybe some of the guys that maybe brought you to the matches in the back of a lorry or anything like that?
Yeah, well, you see, I suppose in the 60s, Michael, hurling was at a low ebb enough. You had a lot of immigration and all that, and there was really no hurling in the schools in the parish. I don't think I ever remember hurling. I went to school in Quin now, and we moved up to Clooney when I was 16. But it was Brendan Vaughan was the man that really got underage hurling off the ground, because he was teaching down in Ballycar at the time, and he came back to, he was playing with Clooney himself. They won a junior championship in '66, but he organised parish leagues, and we used to have matches with the school in Clooney, and we played other teams as well, or matches between ourselves. So that's really what got it going, and we moved on to play underage, under 14 and 16 from there. But like Brendan was a great man, sure. He went on to become county chairman and chairman of the Munster Council later on in his career, you know. So he really started us off. And the people I remember bringing us to matches then was, I remember Paddy Gilmartin had a Graham Morris minor, and Ted Finley, who was a guard in Quin at the time, he was a Galway man. He's still going strong. For Paddy Gilmartin passed away, that'd be a good thing. But Ted was a great man as well. They'd load up their 2 cars and they'd bring us all to matches. And I suppose Seamus Redden, Joe Holland, Tom Lynch would be Fergal Lynch's grandfather. They always had an interest in it as well, you know, and encouraged us to keep playing. And then at the Clooney into the parish, you had Johnny Duggan. If Johnny didn't turn up with his loads, we wouldn't have been able to field the team, you know.
Yes.
And himself and Mary Ford, his wife, they had always a huge interest in the game. And Mary's brother Michael Ford, when he came back to the parish, was an awful lot into it as well, you know. And I'd say they'd be really proud now to be looking down on all their grandchildren. You know, Peter Shaw is I suppose, the best player I ever saw playing for Clooney. And his brother Martin, another very good player, and Killian Duggan, Sean Orla, who's captain of the Clare camogie team, or has been for the last couple of years. And the 2 wars, they'd be all grandchildren of Johnny's. But only for Johnny coming, he could have 9 or 10 in his, I think it was an Anglia estate he had. And if he didn't turn up, we wouldn't have been able to field the team. So I have great memories of all those people, you know.
And I suppose when you started playing with Clooney, when did you first get a Clare jersey? Was it on the strength of playing with Clooney that the county selectors brought you in, or how did it work out?
It was. I got a few trials for Clare minor, but I didn't make it. I suppose I was always small, but I suppose maybe very light at that time. So I improved after that, and I got on the under 21 team or panel that's in 1974, and we had a great team, but got beaten in the Munster final by Waterford.
Yeah.
We had actually 7 of the Clare senior panel at the time. We had Joe Lucknan, Sean Hare and Sean Steck, Colin Horn and John Kenlin, and I think the 2 O'Connors. That was the 7. And Waterford had a good team now, and were only narrowly beaten. They were narrowly beaten in the All-Ireland final. But so I was a sub that year, and the following year then I got to play in 75. And we actually, and nobody expected anything of that team, but we went down and we beat the Prairie down in Cashel in the first round. So John Henley was brought in to train us then, who was a very good coach. And if we had got John a bit sooner, I'd say we'd have been near enough to Cork. They didn't beat us that badly either, and they had players like Jimmy Barry Murphy and Tom Cashman, Dermot McCurtain, I think, they went on and won the final. So that and I played fairly well in those 2 matches, both against Tip and Cork, and that's how I got, I suppose, called into the senior panel by Father Harry.
It must have been very exciting to be with that Clare team in the late 70s with all the games in Tulla, and obviously having a bit of success with the national leagues. What was it like to be involved with that group?
Sure, it was marvellous. I mean, Father Harry was great. He spread his wings around the county, and he didn't care what club a person was from. If they were showing promise, he brought him in. And you had 3 great men as selectors then. You had Matt Nugent, who was a legend in Clare, and Noel Driscoll, and Jerry Brown, and Colin Flynn was the physical trainer, who was a great man as well, you know. But I think the key thing at that time was the fact when they brought Justin McCarthy to Clare. I think I don't think you could quantify what Justin McCarthy did for Clare hurling, because we all learned so much from him. And I think, you know, the great Joe Lucknan and Sean Hare and Sean Steck and Pat O'Connor and all of them, who became great coaches after, I said they learned an amount from Justin McCarthy, you know.
You're
So,
saying that he
and
probably gave them a sort of a love of the coaching by watching
he
him in
did,
action, is it?
he made Clare people believe that could win too, you know, because I remember before the first league final, I came home from training and sure I was a sub like, but I told my father, I said, there's no way Clare will be beaten Sunday. And they were playing Kilkenny now with the Hendersons and Eddie Clare and all those, but he just that belief put into the Clare. So I don't think we'd have won those leagues without him, you know. He kept the balance in that, you know, and I think Clare owe him a great favour for that, because that was the kind of a kickstart that, you know, when Joe Lucknan took over in 95, it was so just saw no reason why it couldn't be done, and I think Norman Edson himself would have got.
Yeah.
That was the real breakthrough, like, you know.
Yeah. I suppose being recorded many times, but I suppose the loss of the two Munster finals probably were they bitterly disappointing as being involved, or was it as bad as people felt at the time?
Sure, it was very disappointing, but I mean, what people forget is that they were a super hot team, like they won 3 in a row. It wasn't done again until Brian Cody did it with Kilkenny, you know. So, but I suppose the match in '78 in particular, like Jim Power was very unlucky to be put off in '77. It was very harsh, like, you know, and that had a big bearing in that match. But in '78, then it was a kind of a dull game. It never opened up, and it was 13 points to 11, I think, was the final score. So, you know, that you look back at that one and you'd say it was a pity we were so close. That if we won that, they might have gone on and won the All-Ireland. You know?
Was there any game that you played with Clare personally that you said that was my game? I really was in top form that day. Was there any personal satisfaction in any game?
Me. I was never that good, Michael, I suppose. But you know, I was able to hold my own with most of them, like, you know. But I suppose we played Galway over in Tulla one day. I came on as a sub, and I think we were down 8 points finishing up, and I think I made the first. I think I made the first goal anyway, and maybe the second one. People often ask me how many goals did you score, but I didn't actually score any. Just I think Pat O'Connor got one, and John Kendall and Noel Casey got the top one.
Yeah.
And I had nothing at all to do with that goal. So
I suppose
I made it 2 runs, and I suppose it kind of turned the match maybe. So maybe that day stands out a bit. Like, you know?
Yes. And when did you play? When did you finish up your involvement with the Clare senior hurlers?
I finished up in '79, I think. I went off. I didn't play after that.
Yes.
Michael Maroney actually asked me to go back because I was holding well in '81, and Jesus, I was milking cows at the time, and I had bulldogs and done. And I think Deirdre was just after being born, and it was in the month of March he asked me, and I hadn't a thing done over the winter. So if I was going to try and be fit for championship, I just think I made the right decision. I'd have been blown out of it, because at my size, if you weren't, you know, at peak fitness and try and get first to the ball, you hadn't a chance, you know. So,
you were going in at half pace, and you wouldn't be doing your.
I'd say I might have been a bit mad with me at the time, but I don't think it would have, that I'd have been good enough with in 6 weeks training, and I wouldn't have had a chance, you know.
Yeah. And I suppose we say the club scene, then you were with Clooney, and then you came up to. There was a bit of a discussion in Clooney Quin for a year or two. And you came up to Crusheen then, and you played senior hurling. How did you like that?
Sure, I really enjoyed the few years. Like Crusheen could pick who they wanted from Clooney. We were just giving them assistance, I think.
Yes.
So I think they probably picked 5 players, and 3 of us maybe played. Mike Duggan and Jimmy Kelly and myself were usually playing. No. So I really enjoyed those years with Tom Eck training us, sure, and there was some great players in Crusheen, Mick Maroney and the O'Donnells and Fitzgibbons and Johnny McMahon and fellas like that. They were all great players. And I really enjoyed that. We were unlucky. Well, I don't think we played that. Well, I didn't play that well in '78 in the semi-final. We got to the semi-final of the championship against Newmarket. And there was only 2 points in it. And I don't know that any of us played that well, really. But and we got to a cup final then against the Bridge. I think that was maybe '79. I'm not sure of the year. And we lost it by 2 points up in Rouen. That was the last match we played together. And it was a match I think we could maybe have won. Only Owen O'Donnell was injured, our full back. And Owen, to me, he was one of the best full backs I ever saw in Clare. I think he was a great player. He wasn't a huge man, but he was fiercely very strong and good on his feet and a great stick man as well, you know. So I'd say if we had him on the day, the Bridge got 2 quick goals at the start, and after that we had the best of it, but they still came out on top by a couple of points, you know.
Yeah, that's what when Clooney gets settled back again, the intermediate championship was won. I think was it '86, was it?
It was '86, and I suppose that was one disappointment I had through one of the few matches I missed in my career with Clooney. I fractured the bone in my hand in training coming up to the final and couldn't play. We had been in the final the year before, and Joseph Peters and we played down in the market, and that was one of the best games. Now I think John Henley said it was one of the best club matches he'd seen for years. So we played match. But Joseph got a goal in the end, but Tom Duggan I think got it, and fair play to them, they won it. It was great to come back the following year. That was one of the highlights of my career. I think that after all the years trying, that we finally got over the line and won the intermediate championship.
And when did you finish up hurling with Clooney?
God, Michael, if I could remember properly, I'd say I was nearly 40 anyway, you know, and I played with an over 40s team in Clare after that. You know, we got the All-Ireland final, they beat us down in the unit.
And who was playing that over 40s team? What legends of the game were there?
Sure, you had Tommy Keane and Sean Heher and I don't know, Sean Steck was playing. Colin Horan I know was playing, and I'm not great to remember now.
Right.
There was a few fellas that mightn't have played senior for the county, but were fine hurlers, like
yes,
Jimmy. Is it McDonald from Joanne? And
oh yes, Jimmy Courtney, is it?
Jimmy Courtney, and there was. Yeah, it was a bit of track, like, sure.
You didn't take it. It wasn't taken that seriously. It was more of a social.
It wasn't taken that serious, you know. But when it's thrown in at the same time,
you want to win.
Serious. Yeah.
And tell me, you have a massive career. I suppose it dwarfed your hurling career, the coaching career you've had. You've been involved with teams, and up to very recently, you were involved with teams. When did you start get the coaching bug? You were back in the 1980s, would it have been? Or when did you start coaching teams?
I did. While I was still playing in Clooney, I suppose I started coaching the Clooney under-16 team. We won an under-16 B or C, which wasn't a huge thing, but was a big thing for us at the time. And I have great memories of that team because I think we had only 2 subs. You know, it was underage hurling wasn't going well in Clooney at the time, and two of their parents asked me would I do with them. So, you know, we walked away that we had some fine players like Keith Mungan in the high, Peter Skehan. There was a lot of great players. I leave out somebody in Owen Gallagher.
Okay.
A lot of great players, but they went on to play intermediate and senior for Clooney afterwards, like, you know.
Yes. And you moved on.
I really enjoyed coaching. That's where I started, so I have a kind of a great memory of that team. And coached a lot of other teams in Clooney after maybe hadn't that much success. Got to semi-finals and finals, but
you were with the county camogie team as well for a few years.
I was. A few of them landed up one Saturday, and they wouldn't take no for an answer anyway in '99, I think it was. And because I know my mother got me good to buy the same year, but they persuaded me to give a hand out anyway, because Father Mac and Trixie Toomey were tied up early in the year and they were to come in and give a hand as well. But we got going anyway, and we were playing fairly well, and we won some good league matches. We beat Kilkenny up in Ballyline, I think, one there by 11 points, which hadn't been done for years, you know. And but we met Hip in the championship, the first round of the senior championship, and they beat us down in the rag, and they actually went on and won 5 All-Irelands, that team, after us. But if you got knocked out in the first round of the senior, you could play intermediate that year as well. So we actually went on and won the All-Ireland intermediate in 99.
Who did you beat? Who did you beat in that intermediate final?
We had to play Cork in the semi-final. They were after winning the Junior All-Ireland, so they were allowed into the intermediate championship as well. So we beat him over in Killaloe, and then we had to go up to Dunley in Antrim to play Antrim in the final, who had a fine team now. And we were actually, they put us to the pin of our collar to win it. I was mad about that team as well. There was some marvelous players in it, you know. You had Captain O'Loughlin, who was our first All-Star, and you had players like Sean McMahon's sister was full back, and Sinead Daly from Joseph's as well, and Keane. So I could name them all day. Sinead O'Brien, who's now married to Liam Doyle, and Marie Collins, who was a smashing player. Myra McMahon, another great player from the market. And Deirdre was starting off that time as well. Herself and Eric Monroe were two very young players that played in that final. They were only doing their leaving cert, I think. So we had Captain O'Loughlin up front in, and Edel Arthur from the market was another fine player, and Sylvia O'Brien from Shannon. So, and Anya McCormick was our goalkeeper. So they were. I was mad about that team because they were great, you know, but just came up a bit short against Tipp, I suppose, in the championship.
How do you mentioned Deirdre there, how do you handle now?
Shoving on a bit at that stage, so. Yeah.
How do you handle now?
Sorry, Michael, I didn't get that.
Sorry, how do you handle now when you had Deirdre and Donica as players? How was it as a father to give them instructions, or would they take any notice to you?
Sure, they would, but I never chose to let them do their own thing too, like, you know, but sure, look, you just treat them the same as you treat everybody else and get on with it, I suppose.
Yes.
You know, so you'll be probably have them your own than you would than anyone else.
Yeah. What was your, I suppose it's strange, what was your best feelings when you were out hurling? What was your best feeling? What was the best time of year for you? Did you like was it the training, the springtime, or what did you get most out of playing sport? Forget about the winning.
Well, what I really liked, Michael, was the contest. You know, if any day you go and play, if you could hold your own, or maybe come out on top against the fellow you were on, especially if they were good players, you know, you'd go home satisfied. But you won a loss, but you always like to win a loss. But
yes,
that was probably the best feeling I had. You know,
Did you miss playing hurling? Did you miss playing hurling when you had to finally hang up the boots?
Sure, I did. Sure, if the legs were right, you'd love to be able to play all the time. But sure, that's the first thing, I suppose, that'll go. You know. And
yes.
When you're coming up to 40 or around there, you find it hard to recover after games. You know, it takes longer. It could be, if you would have had a match on a Sunday, it might be Thursday, because there was no ice bets that time, or that any bangs you'd get. You were, you know, when you're younger, when you're around 20, you'll be back training Tuesday night. But
yes.
When you're around 40, you might meet you Thursday night maybe to be able to do it again, you know. So I suppose that's why people give it up then. It becomes
I suppose
you'd miss it all right. You know.
I suppose Quin is an expanding club now. You made the comment at the start when you first got involved with Keith Mungavan's age group. You were struggling to get. You were looking out the door for a team. Now Quin has expanded as a community, as a parish, and you were in a county final in 3 or 4 years ago. It's a different club from when you were involved at the start?
It is way more organised now, and there's some great people involved in the club, you know, and has been for a long time, like, and some great young coaches as well, like. And, I'd say it's onwards and upwards for Clooney, but I just hope like this they'll stay playing, because you can, no matter what, how good you are underage, just when you hit 18 or 19, this is really kicks in, and that's when you'll know who's going to shape up and be good enough for senior or intermediate or whatever level you're at, you know.
Yes. And as you've got older, have you seen any difference in the way the game is being played now? Or are you happy to see the way it's being played now as opposed to when you were at your prime?
I am sure. I suppose it's definitely more skillful now, but I mean, they're like professionals now, sure. They're training every day, and if they're not training in the pitch, they're in gyms, or they're doing their own thing, or doing wall ball or whatever, you know.
Yes.
That's, the skill level has really improved, but I'd say a lot of the changes, the rules changes that were brought in, they were all brought in to suit forwards, like, you know. It wasn't as easy win possession in our time as a forward maybe as it is now, because if you touch a man out from behind, or, you know, if you didn't put your hand in his back that time, you could get away with maybe a good bit more, like. But
yes,
in general, I'd say the game is better, but I suppose ground holding has gone completely. Like, there's a lot of rocks now, and you can't pull now, because if somebody put in his leg,
it's a free.
And you let fly, you could get a yellow card or a red card. Whereas in our time, if you didn't pull, you could be taken off. No, so but I think in general, the skill level now and the fitness levels and that are just brilliant. But, you know, players have been pushed an awful lot as well. Like, I know for me, the likes of me that was farming and working as well, actually, when I was on the Clare panel, you know, I was working shifts that time, and was maybe have to have energy, or have maybe to give it as much as time as you should give to it, you know.
Yeah.
But now it is really professional. This things are a lot more organised, and there's a lot more balls, sure, training, and there's, you know, better nutrition, and they have dietitians, they have everything. So I don't think at the level we were at now you'd survive at the moment.
Yes.
If they had to come back and play an hour in the same conditions and, you know, same rules, they might find it different as well, you know. So.
But I suppose you have to look at it both ways. If your generation were to get everything that was on offer now, you would improve as well.
They'd be super players as well, like, sure. That's the point I'm trying to make, yeah. But sure, look, you can only go by the era you're in, like, you'll have great players in every era, like. And
yeah. And can I? It's just something I overlooked earlier on. Who were we say when you were hurling with Clooney who were the players that were of your generation, of your era? Who were the players you might think of that you played with?
Sure. I mean, we had the team that won the championship, the intermediate championship, with, you know, some great players. You had the Loughlin's and the Duggans, Mike and John, and with the Collins then from Quin, who were all fine players. You know, Noel and Raymond in particular. Like Noel won a Fitzgibbon with Galway, and Raymond, I think, was a great player as well. But went to Australia then, so we lost him when he was on in his prime, you know, and in there as well. And few players came in then from outside. Tom Larkin built a house here in Clooney. He was a great sticky cornerback, and Jim Casey built a house in the parish as well. So he was an market man, and he gave us great service as well. Himself and John Kennedy was another market man who moved and married down in the Pog. And so we had a Hollands then, and Jimmy Kelly sure was a great player. Sure played 21 for Clare, and I find it hard to recall.
Oh yeah, of course.
And even when I started first, there were players like Brendan Lynch and Pat Littleton. There'd be they were kind of finishing up when I was starting, and I even played with Quin actually, who was a fine old player as well as being a great administrator. So, and when I was a very young fella, I remember Clooney had a senior team actually in the 60s. They had players like the Hessets, you know, you had Mike and
Yes.
James and Christie. And I mean, I had heard with the Ronald as well, but he kind of moved into horse training and he was great point rider. So he didn't play that much after maybe 22 or 3, you know. So Bernie High as well had been playing full back for Clare in the 60s. And Mike Hassett he immigrated to England and he played with Brian Barroso over there and was on the London team and won 2 intermediate all Ireland. So, you know, there's lots of great players come from Clooney. Like, you know,
was there any, I'm not sure if I asked you, sorry, was there any one game or final, or so, I know you said 85 intermediate, was that the biggest, we say, regret that you have in sport, that you didn't win it that year when you were playing yourself?
It probably was because I was captain in 85 and I actually played pretty well now in that 3-player final, and it would have been great to bring it off. We were just narrowly beaten, but we got there the following year. But so there'll be ups and downs of sport as well.
Yes, and I suppose it didn't, when Clooney won the intermediate in 86, then they went back up senior. Then, as you said yourself, there was a bit of a dip and you went back down intermediate. And like a lot of clubs, when you go down intermediate, it's people think that you'll pop up again the following year. The intermediate is nearly harder than senior.
Well, it's just very competitive grade because a lot of people feel they have a chance of, and they really train hard. So it is a tough competition to win now, always is like. So, but I just think the current Clooney team are probably the best I have seen though. Like, they struggled for a long time before they won intermediate, but no, they've just persevered, and with Fergie O'Loughlin in there, he did a great work with him and got him to the county final.
And he's back again this year coming.
And he's back again this year, so I have great hopes for him now because there's a few very good young players coming in now. There's a few of them getting a bit long in the tooth, but they'll hang on, I'd say, for another year or so, you know. There's some great players like Conor Harrison, Fergie Lynch, and my own fella Donnacha. They're all shoving on a bit now, but we might get another year or 2 of them, you never know.
But I think the older experienced players need as well, because 18, 19-year-olds won't win county titles. They need to be shown a bit of leadership and guidance.
Of course, but I mean, if a few good, young, skillful, fast players come in, then it's great encouragement for the older players as well. So if you can get the right blend, you know, who knows what can happen, you know.
Yeah. So listen, thanks very much for that, Mickey. As I said to you, it was great to be talking to you because you've given a lifetime of service to Clooney and to the GAA. So again, hopefully you'll be back out moving. You might be seen in Duggans in the near future, telling stories with Condon and Earls and Duggans themselves.
Hopefully, if this lockdown, we'll be back again and we'll have more chats.
That's perfect. Listen, thanks very much for that, Mickey, and we'll talk again.
Thank yourself, Michael. God bless. Bye-bye.